Hello and welcome along to the third and final instalment of our Welsh niche reputation experiment with me, Daniel. We're back today 30 years in the future to see if the slight regression that we saw in the second episode last weekend has continued, or whether Wales has bounced back and continued to rise up the rankings. Or are we still just going to have a two-horse race at the top of the league? We'll find out all of that in a moment, as it's the final instalment. We'll also take a bit more of an in-depth look at the nation as well, and see who's been winning all the major tournaments, and of course glance at the English and Scottish football pyramid too. So if you're looking forward to that and you have enjoyed this mini experiment series, please do chuck a thumbs up on it. Subscribe down below for daily FM21 content. We've got our Welsh Builder Nation series with Bangor City every weekday at 3:30. And throughout September, we'll have a new mini-series starting at the weekends every Saturday and Sunday too. So do turn your notification bell on to get alerts as episodes from that release. But thank you for your incredible support. You can see the Twitch channel in the eye above. We've got a bumper month of live streams coming next month over there. And then there's FM22 to look forward to. So I'm getting excited as well. But let's start, as we always do, by having a look at the Welsh Pyramid. If you haven't seen the first two episodes yet, you're about to get a massive spoiler. You can find the playlist up there if you want to make sure you haven't missed anything. But let's go and have a look at who's been winning the Welsh Premier League. Is it going to be TNS? It is going to be TNS. I'd be surprised if they haven't won 8 or 9 out of 10. Maybe just Carmarthen splitting it. If there's any other winners, which there is, we've got a big shock on our hands. TNS have won some. Colwyn Bay have won 4 titles. They hadn't won any in the first 20 years, I don't think. Let's go and have a quick look. They hadn't, had they? Carmarthen, Port Talbot, Athenlido, no. Colwyn Bay are becoming a powerhouse. Cambrian and Clydach are in the top tier. Newtown are qualifying for Europe. What on earth's going on up here? Yes, Carmarthen are still up there in second. Colwyn Bay are still up there as well. But there are some shocks in this league. I'm interested. Big news to notice the last 2 years. The Welsh competition ranking has gone down from 21st to 25th. So I think we've seen them reach their peak. You can even see the likes of the Irish Premiership have pushed well past them. That's a worry, because that's happened the last couple of seasons. Maybe as TNS have come back up the rankings. And that would suggest that maybe they haven't done quite as much in Europe as sides. So let's firstly go and have a look at TNS, I guess. Still a 3-star reputation side, still got good finances, still in the Champions League as league winners, but only won half the titles, of course, which is a bit of a surprise for me. Their key player is Ryan Bailey, who's also top of the assist chart. He's very good, but is he quite the standard of the players they had before? And he's only on £1,000 a week, which I find a bit interesting. And he's underbid from other clubs, albeit for very big money. Their top scorer is Elliot Handlin. Okay, he's very good and on £4,500 a week, so maybe not so much to be concerned about there. Their manager is excellent. Very good manager. Managed lots of clubs in the EFL, Nottingham Forest, Swansea, Mansfield, Peterborough. Got a wealth of experience. Is the hot prospect any good? Not bad at 16. So let's go and have a quick glance at the facilities. Everything has stayed excellent on that front, so they've managed to keep that up to speed. But how are their squad getting on? How much are they worth? How much money are they earning? And as a result of all of those, how have they been getting on in Europe? So Stephen Thompson, a striker who can't finish, does my head in that. Let's have a look at the players they've got on loan. Not as good as the ones they've had in previous years. In one instance, King's pretty good. In defence, they're a very good side still. They've not really moved forward a lot, but they haven't gone backwards at all, I wouldn't say. So let's see what in the grand scheme of things that's done in Europe. Because of course TNS have not been automatically in Champions League qualifying every year. Though they have won the last couple of titles. This year they got into the Europa League. How did they get on there? They've won 1 game. They've got 4 points. So that won't have got them through, will it? No. Tough group though. Larne they managed to beat. But Napoli a very tough side to face. The year before that, they started in Europa Conference qualifiers and it's cost them. They didn't get to the group stages. Year before that, as champions, they got through again, this time to the Europa Conference groups. In that, they did okay, but not as well as you'd expect. TNS have definitely gone backwards in Europe the last few years. The year before that, they reached the Europa League group stages, and it looks like they lost every single game, does it? Yep. Unfortunately, they're not quite the force they once were. This was a side, don't forget, that 10 years ago had been to European semi-finals. In the Europa Conference the year before, they've done quite well this year. Knocked out in the first knockout round though. They're not beating the sides they would have a few years before that. Out in the qualifiers the 2 years before. 2042-43, they were in the Europa League group stages. Got to the Europa Conference knockout but lost in the first round. Year before that, Europa Conference groups. Got through them as champions to the last 16 but lost to Besiktas on penalties. That's the year that's cost them. And in the first season, Europa League group stages, Europa League knockout round. Lost to Lyon on aggregate. I'm a bit disappointed by that. What we really need now is Carmarthen or Colwyn Bay to have saved the day. Otherwise, I can understand where this slip's come from and it will probably continue. And actually, Welsh football's probably been harmed by the fact that it's not the same side that have been going through the Champions League qualifiers every year. So Carmarthen Town not finished lower than 4th at all. Had a few years of dip, but the last 4 years have been second consistently. So let's have a look at their facilities. They're still professional. They've got a 3-star reputation. They've got good training facilities. They've improved slightly. And in terms of the squads, they've got a few players on $2,500 a week that are earning big money and look pretty good. And a French youth international from Leicester. That's not bad going. They've had good players on loan again this season by the looks of it. They're a club back on the up. And they look like on paper they've got almost as strong a squad as TNS. So let's go and have a look at them in the schedule. The problem with them is they would have been in the Europa Conference qualifiers, and it's a big ask to get all the way to the groups. They didn't do it last season, but the year before they did. However, they got a tough group and they were battered by almost everyone. Just 4 points they managed to pick up. The year before that, out in qualifying. The year before that, all the way through to the group stages. So 2 out of 4 is not bad. And here, they got a better draw. They won their first 2 games. They won a third there. And that got them through, surely. No! 9 points and they didn't get through. That's very unfortunate. Year before that, out in the first qualifier. Year before, same again. Through to the Europa League groups in 2043. But they didn't get many results there by the looks of it. In fact, they finished the group okay, but didn't get through. 2042, first qualifier. Year before that, first qualifier. And the first year, they got through to the Europa Conference group stages. They didn't get past that though. What I will say for Carmarthen, they've never won a title. So they're the equivalent of, say, a TNS or a Barrytown United. If you look in our Builder Nation with Bangor City. None of those clubs have been able to do this nearly every year. So Carmarthen, to get to the group stages 4 or 5 times in 10 years. Not a disaster, but not exactly what we were hoping for. Now let's go to the big surprise of the last 10 years. Colwyn Bay, who of course have won 4 titles out of nowhere. Have they managed to replicate that in Europe? Because it's all good them winning the titles, but if they don't then take advantage of being in the Champions League qualifiers and reaching some form of European groups, it's basically irrelevant. So Joseph Bakari's their star player. He is excellent, let me tell you that. It's a bit weird really. They've not finished second at all in the last 7 years. They've either won it or dropped third. And the same has often happened for TNS. It's just very odd really. Let's look at their top scorer, Craig Beveridge. Good player. So actually, there's now a third side with a very good team. But if anything, it's had a detrimental effect because they've then been competing with each other, sometimes not reaching the group stages. But it is good to see that 3 clubs have got a good reputation, are professional, facilities upgraded for Colwyn Bay as well, good training, good youth and average for everything else. Let's have a look at how they've done in Europe. We need some of this to be big. So this season they started in Europa Conference qualifiers, didn't reach the groups. That's okay, but the 4 years they won the league, they had to get to the group stages to make this a success. First year, Europa Conference group stages, only narrowly as well, lost to Dinamo in the Europa League playoff. In the group, they won their first 2 games. They got 10 points, they must have got through. They did, and then lost narrowly to Copenhagen in the first knockout round, but that's a good sign. The year before that, they were in Europa League qualifiers, lost out in the playoff unfortunately. Year before that, didn't get through the qualifiers. The year before that, they got to the Europa Conference group stages. And interestingly, as champions, they were in the 3rd qualifying round of the Champions League. Which means I think they were in the top 15 or 16 of the European club coefficients. In the group stages, looked like a pretty tough group. They got a couple of draws there. Did they manage to get a win anywhere? Towards the end, they won't have got through there. No, out in the group stages. The year before that, Europa League group stages. This is what we're talking about. Got a win at home there. Got a draw there. But they didn't do enough to get through to the Europa Conference knockouts in third place. Year before that, when they were league champions, they got to the Europa Conference groups. So they did do it all 4 years. You've got to give them that. That season, they won 3 games. Got to have got through. Yep. But lost in the first knockout round. Oh, that's a game they should have been winning. Won the away leg 2-1 and lost 3-0 at home. Incredibly frustrating. The 3 years before that, I'm imagining they weren't yet a powerhouse. And the first 2, in fact, they only got to Europe once. So very bizarre. It looks like they've been the 3 standout sides by a long way. Newtown are in Europe this year. I'm not sure how many times they will have been. They were this season, got through 1 qualifying round, but not a huge amount before that. In fact, none at all. So who have been the other side that's regularly been in Europe? We need to go and find that out by the stages. So Newtown the last 2 years. Before that, Bangor City, Connors Quay, who got relegated this year, Port Talbot, Carmarthen and Port Talbot. So there, they got into the top 12 because they got 5 European places. So they had that big rise and then it all suddenly went wrong again. The year before that, it was Connors Quay. So Connors Quay finished 3rd loads of years in a row. And this year they finished bottom and got relegated. So has the money run out or something? What's happened? Did they ever reach the group stages? It's only 2 years ago they were last in Europe. And they got to the Europa Conference group stages in 2041. And not only that, they got through to the first knockout round as well. So that's one hell of a fall from grace. So even though the competition reputation's dropping, I'm interested to see where Wales are in the nation coefficients. Because it looks like they've had a bit of progression on that front. So we'll go and have a look at that in a second. But let's firstly start by having a look at the transfer windows. What's been going on this year and has it been big still? More of a selling league, but Colwyn Bay replacing Carmarthen as the second side spending big money. But it must be noted, not quite as big as we've seen in years before that. Not the £3, £4, £5 million. We're sort of capped at around £1 million a transfer here. The last big one is 2046, but only in terms of TNS selling players abroad and in signing a few from Carmarthen, as we've seen previously. No real massive signings above £1 million. Colwyn Bay made 1 there, but only just 1.1 million. The year before that, TNS 1.1. We haven't seen any big transfers for 7 years. And we haven't seen any from TNS to foreign clubs for a long time, and that's a big worry. It's become a lot more of a selling league. Carmarthen, you can see there, 2041, just sold basically half their squad. You can't afford to do that. It's been a bit disappointing actually. Let's have a look at the European club coefficient, because if they can keep a big 3, this would have potentially been interesting, but it doesn't look like they've managed to do so. So in fact, Wales have dropped all the way to 25th. It's close between a lot of nations, but that has been a big fall from grace in recent years. And that means actually they're going backwards. They got to the stage where they had 5 teams in Europe, which must mean they were 15th. They had to have been in at least 15th place for that to happen. So they have then dropped all the way back to 25th in a space of what, 4, 5 years? Not really good enough, is it? Let's have a look at the clubs individually, because there must still be some doing all right. They're reaching group stages and they're reaching knockout rounds, but I guess they're not all doing it every season because of their rotation. TNS about to lose their best year. They've dropped to 86th, but then Colwyn Bay and Carmarthen are back up to the high 100s. So actually they've been a victim of their own success, each club, because they've ended up rotating positions rather than one just going out and dominating it and being right at the top, and then another couple that can reach the group stages regularly would arguably have been better. And in the Connors Quay one, they were supporting them and have now fallen away and got relegated. That's going to be a hammer blow for Welsh football. I can see them going backwards from here. Let's have a look at the national team rankings though. Wales are joint 20th in the world. And have they done anything spectacular in recent years? I mean, the star players are still playing across Europe. Tottenham, Barcelona, Liverpool. Wow. Bryn Hughes, we saw him 10 years ago. Legendary striker now. World-class centre-half at Liverpool. Top-class player at Sheffield United. They're doing really well. And that would suggest Sheffield United are still doing well, given the last review we had. Let's see if they've done anything in a major tournament in terms of being a top 3 or 4 side. No. So limited at quarter-final still. But Wales doing all right. We've got to be proud of that. We will very quickly, before we go and have a look at the rest of Welsh football, go and have a look to see if anyone's got any new stadiums or there's any big investments off the pitch. And I'm interested actually just to see what the average attendances are, because that's something we didn't look at too much in the last one. Okay, so the average attendance is over 1,000 for all of those big three. So that is progression, and everyone bar Barry Town United above 500. Definitely a step up from where we were. Highest attendance nearly 2,000. TNS have got a massive salary as well, and all of those three above $1 million a year. So really interesting to see that those three have just made it their own little league basically. We just needed one of them to be dominant for the 10 years. In terms of stadiums in the league, are there any new ones? No, there's not. Cambrian and Clydach have come up, so they've got their big stadium. I'm interested to see how they get on, to be honest. They have stayed up for 4 years now. Have they made any appearances in Europe? They finished 5th one year, but I doubt they won the qualifier, did they? Or the playoff, sorry, for the league. Doesn't look like it. But they could be a contender if they keep their stadium progressing. But equally, they're not really filling it, so it doesn't make a difference. They've not got good facilities aside from that either. And they're still semi-pro with average finances. We can't expect too much for them. Let's have a quick look at the north and south as we always do. No new stadiums in the north or in the south. Let's have a look at the sides that are in there. Port Talbot had gone down. They're a side that we'd relied on. They won loads of titles the first decade and have fallen away spectacularly. And in the north, Airbus UK winning it. Aberystwyth can't get back up. Bala down there as well. And none of those sides pro. They are holding their reputation all right, bar Aberystwyth for some reason. But a lot of them still have a 2.5-star reputation. So I'll be interested to see if they hold on to that, because that's the thing we enhanced. Nothing else at all, and it has had a big impact on some of these sides. Virtually everyone in the top tier has still got at least a 2.5-star reputation. It's only really Barry Town United who are falling apart financially, and Afan Lido have been a yo-yo club after that one shock early title. So we can't complain on that front. Let's finish off this experiment though by doing what we always do. We'll have a look at the English and Scottish pyramids and see if there's any big shocks in store. So Sheffield United have fallen back to mid-table. Fulham have just snuck in 7th, but it's the usual top 6, even 30 years on. And no one has gone up more than one division. And in fact, from the start of the game, I think it's only Watford and Bournemouth that weren't the original Premier League teams. And Norwich, sorry. So 17 out of 20 is pretty impressive. Let's have a look at the Championship. Reading have won the playoff. Burnley and Blackburn up with them. Chesterfield back in the Championship, though they've gone down this season. Plymouth in there, Swindon in there still. I think they were there 10 years ago. Bolton from League 2 at the start of the game. So a few clubs that have come up a few divisions. Are there any shocks down in League 1? Preston QPR in the playoff final, one of them making their way back up. Mansfield going back up to the Championship as champions. No major shocks in the Downs. Maidstone in League 1. They're a side that seem to do well in quite a lot of saves for some reason. Hartlepool up in the top end of League 1. And Stockport as well. All three of those started in non-league. Luton Town, my club, still ploughing along in mid-table there as well. Let's go to League 2. I'm waiting for the first shock of teams that were going down. And it doesn't look like we're going to see many of them. Accrington into non-league. Oxford and Burton battling relegation from League 2. Barnet going up to League 1. Nothing major, I wouldn't say, aside from that. No one that's moved more than one division, really. A few National League sides that have found their way up there, but nothing spectacular. Into the National League. Forest Green win the playoffs. Lincoln win the league. Back into the Football League after starting in League 1. Northampton were in the National League North 10 years ago. They just won it. They're at the top end of the National League now. Rochdale in there from League 1. Bristol Rovers as well. Carlisle in non-league. And Salford flying back down the leagues. They're going down to the National League North now. Let's have a look in that division where we have got Bradford Park Avenue winning the playoffs. Chorley winning the league. Any big shocks? Any Football League teams down there? I can't actually see any. Morecambe again. They've been yo-yoing in and out of the National League North for the last 10 years. Barrow are down there as well. They've been doing the same in recent seasons. So 2 Football League clubs at the start of the game, albeit smaller ones reputation-wise, have now found their way out of the playable leagues quite regularly in the last 10 years. National League South is the final one. Cheltenham have won it. They've dropped down a few times in this save. Not one other Football League club in there though, so no massive shocks really. Let's have a quick look at the Scottish Pyramid as well. You know that's one I like to look at. Celtic, the champions, have they still been sharing nicely? Or not so much? Rangers have only won 1 out of 10 the last 10 years, but very much the old firm dominance still. Falkirk relegated from the top tier, but no hugely unusual suspects in the top 6 of the Scottish Premiership. In the Championship, Stenhousemuir up in 3rd, perhaps a bit of a shock. Dundee relegated to League 1, but nothing major again. Partick Thistle back up to the top tier, that's interesting to see. In League 1, Stranraer the champions, they were in the Championship last time. Ayr United going back up. Morton down to League 2, not the first time they've been there in this save. And then Stirling going up alongside Queen of the South. Bonnyrigg Rose up in 2nd. Invery Locos. It's in a slightly different look League 2. Brechin fighting down the bottom. Dumbarton right in bottom spot. But to be honest, I would expect after 30 years a few more slightly spectacular things. We haven't seen them though. Let's go and have a look very quickly, as it's the last save, at who's been winning the World Cup, the European Championships and the European club competitions. So, World Cup, England in 2046, but nothing prior to that. What about the European Championships? Did it take England that... Hang on a minute. I was going to say, did it take England that long to win a trophy? Ireland have just won the European Championships. Turkey, France and Spain before that. And to be fair, Ireland were beating Turkey, who'd been in back-to-back finals. I've got to go and look at Ireland. Who would have thought a Welsh experiment would aid them so much? 14th in the world rankings. Where have their stars come from? I mean, the Irish Prem looks pretty good in fairness. They are littered with world-class talent. They've got a player at West Ham worth 60 million who's brilliant. Came through at West Ham and has been a star from their academy. Burnley have got a superstar, albeit not quite so good. Brandon O'Loughlin up front of Juventus at 31 is a club legend. Came through at Wolves 15 years ago. This is a massive shock to end it. Glenn O'Connor at AC Milan. Came through the Liverpool academy. Had a spell at Larne. And is now playing for the European Championship champions. That is an incredible effort. Well done, the Republic of Ireland. You are holders of a major European trophy. So that's absolutely incredible. Let's look at the Champions League quickly. Wow. Talk about English dominance for 9 years. Manchester City with 5, United 2, Liverpool 2. Before that, a lot more spread out. If we have a look at the Europa League, see who's been winning that. All England again. Sheffield United have won it 3 times. Arsenal twice, Liverpool, Chelsea. So Sheffield United, maybe a blip in the league this year, but must still be doing pretty well. Yeah, till the last 2 years, they were a very good side. And then finally, the Europa Conference. Any surprise winners there? Not really. It's all the big nations. I'd be surprised if it works out that way in real life. But for now, unfortunately, no major surprises. So Ireland nicking the European Championship certainly stole the show there. But if you did enjoy this mini experiment with the Welsh League, our second one of FM21, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Let me know if there's any more you'd like to see, particularly in terms of the niche ones, or maybe another attribute you'd like us to consider in Welsh football. If you want to stay up to date with the channel, please do subscribe down below and turn the notification bell on. Still plenty of Welsh action to come as our Bangor City Builder Nation continues every weekday at 3:30. We've got a new mini-series coming next weekend too, so keep your eyes peeled for that. There's links to the podcast channel and the Twitch channel up in the eye above. Real football content galore on both of those. But a big thank you for watching. Your support as always. I've really enjoyed this one. And I'll see you next time for Bangor City tomorrow at 3:30.